Welcome back to C++ with Miyoshi. Today we're going to talk about branching or decision making with using the ifs. And to do that, we always have if is a keyword, and if you're using the Visual Studio compiler, it shows up in blue. That means you can't use it as a variable or a function name or anything like that. And what we always have is we have these parentheses, and inside those parentheses we have some statement that evaluates to either true or false. So in this case we have if x is less than 2.5, then all we're going to do is printf x is less than 2.5. Very simple. Notice here that we have the semicolon at the end of the statement. I personally don't like to use if statements like this very often, where it's just one long line. The reason why is because oftentimes we want to add to that, and so we have to do a little bit more finagling when we do it that way. So here's more what I like to use. If x is greater than 3.5. Notice I use the less than symbol only, so I have the x on the right side of the 3.5 in this case. I have these curly braces, and anything inside these curly braces that follows the if statement, anything inside there will be done when this evaluates to true. So if x is indeed greater than 3.5, not equal to, but greater than, then it will output this guy, print f. It's going to print out outside the range. Again, if there were more statements inside here, inside these curly braces, it would do all those statements, and that's what this last one here shows. So I have if a is equal to b, and those would be some variables that we declared up there somewhere. Then we're going to assign x the value of 3 and assign the value of 7 to y. If a is not equal to b, the other side, the flip side of that, we have this else. Else says if that's not true, then this guy is true. Then we're going to do x is 4. Okay? Now, all these things, every one of these statements is true, or when this guy evaluates to false, it's going to skip this guy. When this guy evaluates to false, it's going to skip down and go down below that curly brace. When this guy evaluates to false, it's going to come down and check out the if, or else. And the else, in this case, is just going to do x assigned value 4. If this is true, it's going to do these guys. If it's false, it's going to do those guys. Okay? So, the difference here without the else, it just skips down below the curly brace or finishes that, finds a semicolon there and comes to the next line, as opposed to doing a different statement. Okay? One nice thing, or one thing that people often get confused about, and that is when we said that early on that every statement in C++ has a semicolon to it, and here with my if statement it looks like there's no semicolon. If you accidentally put a semicolon there, it will do this guy all the time. It won't give you an error. It'll just come and do whatever's inside the curly braces every time, not just when x is less than, or x is greater than 3.5. So the current semicolon here in that case, when there's these curly braces, it really is here. So my if statement does have a semicolon, it just happens to be here. Or in this case, you can see it more clearly that my semicolon happens to be after the printf. Okay? Well, there's more to it than that. Here I have some compound statements. I have if x is between 2.5 and 3.5. So that says if x is greater than 2.5 and x is less than 3.5 or equal to, it must be inside that range for this to be true. Both of these statements on the left and the right side of the and symbols there must be true for this guy to come inside these curly braces. And if that is true, that's going to say it's inside the range. Now here I have an else if. An else if is really just like an else spec over here, but it's checking to see if x is indeed less than 2.5. If it is, then it's going to say, it's going to do some y minus minus here, and then it's going to say, hey, it's too small, it's littler than it's supposed to be. Otherwise, if it does an else if, it can do let's check to see if x is greater than 3.5. Again, it'll subtract one from y, and it'll say it's too big. The value is too big. Now I can have as many of these else ifs as I want. Else if, I have an if, then a statement, and an else if a statement, then an else if a statement. Again, these statements all evaluate to true or false, depending on, you're going to evaluate the statement, and it's going to either be a true or false. And then it's going to do what's inside there based on whether that's true or false. These are mutually exclusive. If it does one of them, it's not going to do any of the other ones. And same thing over here. If it does one of these, it's not going to do any of the other ones. This one you can see it's going to be one of those three, and nothing else will be there. In this case here, maybe I have some statements that evaluate and then I want to check to see, last but not least, if all these statements, none of them is true, but I don't have any other checking that I need to do, that check last one would be my else. So the else, in this case, happens to be that I want to do, if none of these are true, then I want to do that last thing. And again, anything inside those curly braces, these little dots there, that says I can have as many of these else ifs as I want. Else if, else if, else if, else if, and I can keep going on and on and on until I finally get to my else. And you don't have to have the else, but you can if you want. The other thing to make sure of is that there's a space here with your else if. That was a mistake I made back in the day when I was first learning C++, because I was used to another program where there was no space between else if. The other big mistake I would say to watch out for is make sure you have two equal signs when you're checking equality. This will not give you a compiler error if A is assigned, but it is read if A is assigned to value B. This will always evaluate to true. It'll set the value of B to A, or A to B, whatever they are. They will be the same after that. And then it'll do what's inside the curly braces, and it'll drop down below the else after that. So make sure when you're doing a comparison that you really are doing comparison with two equal signs. So the if, branching using if, really helpful, really easy decision-making process, and that's how you do it. So hopefully you've enjoyed that and are able to use some branching with the if statements, and hopefully you subscribe, and we'll see you back next time for more C++ with Miyoshi.